This is the thing. Who you choose to hang around with, who you choose to have in your posse is exactly who you become. Choose your posse wisely. I'm here to tell you that putting yourself first is not selfish, it's revolutionary. Welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast, empowering women to light their lives on fire through Ayurveda, yoga, spirituality, and fitness. Jai Bhagwan, Women Warriors, and welcome to the Woman Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Satyavani, and I have my fabulous co-host here, Prajna Madhavi, and we are ecstatic with the guests that we have today. And before we get into that, I just wanted to start out with giving you some information about what is going on with the Woman Warrior Academy. Mm-hmm. It's exciting.
Yes.
We have our first Woman Warrior Academy retreat happening this February, which is very exciting, in no other place but
Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah, baby. So we have the Costa Rica Escape for the Woman Warrior, February 7th to the 15th in 2025. So put this on your Christmas list, okay? People will often ask you, what do you want for Christmas? This is what you want. You want to come and you want to hang out with us, right?
Change your life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Change your life in 7 days, okay? Mm-hmm. And the highlights are that we are going to do a couple of days in San Jose in the city, and then we whisk you away on the Pacific side of Costa Rica to Jaco, which we will be at a yoga retreat, and all of those days will include a fitness workout in the morning, and then some yoga and meditation, some pranayama practices, and also some journaling, and using, which one of our guests knows very intimately about, the Clever Fox Planner to start working through a life of purpose and doing some activities that will get you really dialed in with how your 2025 can be the best year of your life on all levels of the self. Anything I'm missing here, girl?
I think just great discussion, great food.
Oh, the food.
From what I hear, the food is just amazing. I haven't been, but I'm so excited to.
But you've been to Belize.
Yes.
So somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Somewhat similar. But the food is amazing. 7 days at this retreat, it will absolutely change your life. It includes transportation to and from the international airport, all of your lodging, all of your meals, all of the education, all of the excursions, because we have 2 excursions that are included in this retreat. One to Manuel Antonio National Park, where you get to see all the creatures, especially the sloth. And if you have never seen a sloth in your life, oh my God, the sloth is the best. Just the smile on the sloth face just like brings incredible joy. So you got to come, even if it's just for the sloth, okay? And then the second excursion is to Tortuga Island, a cruise around the island and some beach time and all the good stuff. And who does not want to get away from the majority of the United States in February, okay?
It's one of the worst.
I know. And your birthday is in February, which I'm sorry. The last day.
Yeah, I know.
The last day, but we're doing it differently this year.
Yeah.
We're doing it differently.
I know. Got to get out.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in joining us for our first Woman Warrior escape to Costa Rica, go to thewomanwarrioracademy.com and check out the empowerment retreats, and gives you all the information and how to register and come and join us. You will not regret it. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, friends, today we have 2 fabulous guests with us. Our first guest is Dr. Noah Edvalson, right?
Yep.
I want to make sure I got that right. Okay. And he is with the Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine. We are going to have a fantastic conversation about all the things it is that he does. And our second guest is our very good friend and colleague and co-coach at Fit Body Boot Camp, Ms. Tina Fuller. So thank you both for coming today.
Yes. Honor. Thank you so much for having us.
So appreciate having you. So I want to introduce Dr. Edvalson first to give you some background, and then we're going to do our wellness check-in. Then we'll introduce Tina, and we'll do our wellness check-in like we always do each week. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to get into some good discussion and all the things that we normally do on this podcast. So Dr. Edvalson, I have to say, I was introduced to you from my Krav Maga instructor, August Ritter. And he said, if you're ever banged up, this is the guy you go to see. And so this was the guy I went to see. And I first want to read the mission. Before I introduce you formally, I'd like to introduce the mission of the Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine, because this could not be in any more alignment with what our podcast is about, what our Ayurvedic practices are about. As an Ayurvedic practitioner, it's like lines up perfectly. And so the acronym is ICIM. Mm-hmm. And ICIM, it says, we strive to use a functional and holistic approach to provide competent and progressive healthcare encompassing physical, nutritional, emotional, and energetic vitality in a compassionate and collaborative environment where we treat the cause of disease, just so near and dear to my heart, using safe, natural, and effective therapies while enriching the community with education, self-reliance, and self-empowerment. Oh, Dr. Noah.
That was not written by ChatGPT, by the way.
Thank you so much. I know it wasn't, because this was on your website way before that even came into existence. So Dr. Noah has actually an impeccable and incredible pedigree. And so we are actually very, very fortunate to have you here in Boise, Idaho with us. Thank you for setting your practice up here, because you could go a million places with this CV that you have here. He's a doctor of chiropractic medicine and a naturopathic doctor. So that just blows me away. Like, you're like, I'm going to do chiropractic. And, by the way, I'm just going to go and become a naturopathic doctor. Okay. A certified chiropractic sports physician, a fellow of the International Academy of Medical Acupuncture, a fellow of the American Association of Ozone Therapists, which I absolutely love, an advanced prolozone therapist via the American Academy of Ozone Therapy, and a Graston Technique certified practitioner. So both Prajna and I have had the great pleasure to come and see you for various modalities.
Yes, indeed.
And different modalities. And I just, what got you into this? This is amazing.
Well, as you can see, there are a lot of different things there. And I think it's just my desire and hunger to learn. And it's usually when I run into roadblocks with a difficult patient, that's when I kind of go, oh, I need to try something else. I need to learn something new. I need to look at some new equipment, look at a new therapy. And so that has really, I think, pushed me into expanding.
Absolutely incredible. I mentioned this before we started the podcast. So one of the doctors that we follow, Praj, why don't you say one of the doctors that we follow?
Dr. Zach Bush.
Dr. Zach Bush.
Yeah.
Yep. And you are our Dr. Zach Bush. Chill out, Zach. Okay.
And if you ever want to be on the podcast, you can.
Thanks. We'll let you. Welcome to June.
He's a little out of my league, but I'm honored to be mentioned in the same scene.
Oh, I mean, this is impressive. So
he had to start somewhere too. So
absolutely, and like humble and gracious and kind and compassionate, just like you. And but at the same time, it's also it's the same but different in the sense that I love the fact that you wanted to seek different knowledge and find different solutions, because we are complex beings.
Yeah.
Before we get deep into the questions that we have for you, and our colleague here, Tina Fuller, is going to join us in asking you a series of questions. But I also want to introduce our colleague here, Tina Fuller, who has not been on the podcast yet as part of the Fit Body Bootcamp family, but she also has a background in some other amazing things. So Tina, why don't you tell us about what it is that you currently do for work outside of being an amazing and fabulous coach at Fit Body, but the things that you do for the state.
So I am a business analyst with information technology services with the state of Idaho. I love what I do every day. It is an incredibly diverse host of things. We have a bunch of different teams that do a bunch of different services, And really, the people we serve are the other people who are serving the state. So we take care of the IT services for all of the state agencies. We also have citizens as customers. And just some of the work that the folks at our office are doing is just absolutely incredible. It's mind-blowing. I'm never bored. And it's just a lot of fun.
I love that. And your education background was not necessarily this, correct?
No, I started out in geography and GIS.
Love it.
So combining data with spatial location. Absolutely love it. Everything about it. I am a huge data and numbers nerd. And then my master's is in public administration. And so went a little bit further into that. And I've worked for a variety of governmental entities. I've worked for the city of Garden City and then without it, Compass for a while and the sheriff's office and now the state.
Please, so Tina has this very interesting little piece in her life that she shared with me one day. And I was like, what? About how you worked for the sheriff's office. Please do share.
So
what was your exact title?
So with the Garden City Police Department, I started with Garden City Public Works and then I went part-time. And originally I was the detective's admin and I was backup evidence technician. And
Is that the best?
Ended up being the only one that had any real training. And it was kind of a 24/7, 365 gig. So the person who trained me, who was absolutely fabulous, was like, I just can't 24/7, 365, not for me. So at that point I was named so evidence tech and crime scene investigator for them. And it was
all CSI.
It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of really cool things, kind of like you, you just like learning. So it was definitely not my career trajectory, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And after a couple of years, my husband was like, that 24/7, 365 thing, those 6 camping trips that we canceled, you're going to have to find a new job.
Gotcha.
So rebounded back out of that, got back into the GIS. And then I did that for Compass with some travel demand modeling and things along those lines. And then had the opportunity to join on with the sheriff's office doing the GIS to support their phenomenal human beings working in their dispatch center and the computer-aided dispatching system that they use to help get help to anyone that needs help.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the two of you actually and if we're looking at this, podcast and our discussion holistically, it really is about, okay, what data do we have and how do we assemble that for the best possible solution? Whether it's in health, whether it is in information systems, and all of it is under the umbrella of service, which is really quite amazing. So,
Yeah.
So let's do our wellness check-in. Every podcast, we do a wellness check-in with our guests and with one another. And so I'm going to pass this off to my beautifully blonde co-host, Prajna Madhavi. Go ahead, girl.
All right. So as usual, we look at we're looking at the physical, the energetic, the mental, emotional, and the intuitive and the spiritual self. So if I were to describe my situation, my physical.
Oh, I don't get to ask you?
Yeah, you can ask me.
Prajna,
Yeah.
how are you doing on all 5 Koshik levels in your life right now?
Physically, I'm not where I want to be. I'm kind of in a maintenance phase.
Cool.
But I'm trying to sustain what I built up over the summer.
Still looking pretty damn jacked.
I'm not as jacked and tan as I would like to be.
None of us are as tan as we
I
want.
know. But not going to go get the fake tan just for that.
Oh, come on.
But I'm just finding I'm trying to sustain. It's with all the new things that I'm doing, it's also figuring out what my schedule is. And that's still kind of landing for me. So I think once I get some other things in place, that will start to pick up a little bit. On the energetic side, I feel like my work environment is kind of keeping it zen within my room. I'm trying to figure out, I did have my first student breakdown yesterday. So that as long as the first time in, 5 weeks, that's not a bad thing. But it was definitely my first, the kids are starting to feel the pressure of quarter ending and parent teacher conferences coming. And so there's just some students that are like, I don't know. They're just they're feeling the pressure. So,
And they're freshmen, right? Are these all your freshmen?
and they, as I was just talking to my psychology kids, they read an article about the teenage brain and how teens respond with emotion, not with logic. So this kid was giving me all emotion because that's all he had. He's like, this is all I got right now is just emotion. I was like, oh, okay. And so that was actually,
Glad you read the article.
a really good mindful experience for me. That was like, okay, I get it. Like, I'm your trigger right now. So just let's remove you from the room. And he didn't want to go, but I was like, no, I think you really should. It's going to be good for both of us. And so he had to be escorted out and he wasn't happy about it, but we'll see. He comes back. It's just, email the parent and all of that stuff just to make them aware that there was an issue. And so, but I would say overall, I mean, that being the first one I've had,
that's actually, you're doing well
with that. Yeah. So mentally, emotionally, teachers are also kind of feeling that. So I've had to kind of help out a teacher at work this week with subs and things like that. And so that is an added energetic and mental emotional strain, but I feel strong enough to handle that.
I have to say, like, the you from 2 years ago, it would have been a completely different situation.
Yeah.
Like, you really need to applaud yourself for how amazing you are handling it and actually leading.
Yeah.
Which is next level stuff.
Yeah.
It's easy to be the support, but to actually lead and kick into action based on what you told me went on this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah. So that's been really good. And then I'd say that also kind of bleeds into the intuition, just with, this kid and with coworkers, just having that intuition of like, no, you just need to go home. Like, that's my intuition is you need to get out of this, whatever environment is causing this angst or, emotion, and remove yourself from that for a certain amount of time. And when you're ready, come back. And then spiritual, boy, about as spiritual as I'm getting right now is just that silence I get with bonsai in the morning. Just the little, connecting hearts and just setting him, like he was just all four paws up in the air this morning before I left. Just like, I'm so comfortable and safe. And I'm like, okay, I gotta go. Sorry. So, but it's something, and that's what I need right now. So, yep. Cause they, that little dog, just, there's a little angel inside that little guy.
He's such a soul.
I know.
I got to see him this week. It was so great.
Yeah.
He was so excited. I was like, let's go out. He's like, okay. He goes out and then he just like sits down in his chair.
Yep.
Like lays in the sun.
It sits in the sun.
Like, how do I get that life?
King Bonsai. Gotta work on your karma and come back to a well-treated dog. So yeah. So that is me. So that would be an example. So Dr. Noah, what about you?
Yeah, well, I love that you guys are looking at all the different levels and taking into account that all that affects your health, right? And that's something that we definitely try to emphasize in our clinic. So for the energetic side, I have 5 children, as you may hear about soon with my bio. So obviously energy is always something I'm fighting for. I can never have enough.
What's the age range?
Yeah.
4 up to 15.
Oh, God. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm in the thick of it.
You're in it for a long time, bro.
Yeah. I got a long road ahead. And so, when I come home from a hard day of work, I, have to be the monkey man and wrestle and help out and try to entertain and get kids ready for bed and stuff, try to help out around the house a bit. But
are they all in school?
Yeah, we homeschool and do some co-op and private stuff. And then my oldest is at Eagle High.
Oh, okay.
Freshman at Eagle High. So anyway, I'm always looking for ways to get a little bit more energy. The other night I had my 7-year-old in bed with us. And that night I had this, I don't want to call it a nightmare, but it was a pretty crazy dream that yellow jackets were chasing me. So I kept looking back. I'm running as fast as I can. And these yellow jackets are chasing like a swarm. And I'm getting stung, here and there, but they keep chasing me. And then I wake up and my son's kicking me in the head with his feet. He had turned sideways in the bed and was jacking me with his feet. So I assume that's where that dream was coming from. So
the big stinger.
Anyway, yeah.
That's sting.
Sleep will, of course, zap your energy. A lack of sleep, I should say, will zap your energy faster than anything. So I'm always fighting to, get to bed on time and try to have a good routine. So, but I'm using some peptides and some things to help, augment that or, maybe offset some of those deficiencies. And so that's been helping. For the mental level, for me, I'm always just trying to learn and grow. And so that's, I enjoy having my mind stimulated with different things and just trying to learn. And that's what keeps me going. I have to use some things sometimes to cheat, like methylene blue or caffeine or things to keep the mind going. If it's a tough day or if I had the yellow jackets chasing me the night before, then I have to, maybe use some hacks like that. But for me, I just really get excited about learning something new. I'll spend, a half hour, an hour just watching videos on how to do a certain technique or whatever. And so just trying to keep the brain stimulated and sharp and excited about something. I think if we just go to work and get stuck in the rut, then the brain kind of starts to turn down, right? So
absolutely.
Emotional. I love this time of year. Spring is probably my favorite, but I love it when it kind of cools down a little bit from summer as well for the fall and the leaves start to change. I can get outside. It's not crazy hot by 10 a.m., and you can still do it. So I'm just feeling emotionally like with all the smoke we had this summer and stuff, it was just kind of draining. It's almost like winter blues, but in the summer, you can't get outside and enjoy. So
absolutely.
I feel like emotionally,
Can't see it.
Although, did you guys see the fire coming?
Yes,
in today?
I did.
So,
we were just talking about that. That's crazy.
But,
it looks very apocalyptic out there to a certain degree. Yeah. And for those of you that are in Harris Ranch, we hope you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And intuitively, that's sometimes a tough one for me, honestly. I think sometimes I don't appreciate or take time to stop and acknowledge that it's my intuition, right? But I'll just share, I think, one thing right now that's happening in that world. And we're bringing a new person into our practice, Jennifer Whitney. She's a nutritionist. And I will say that as we open our doors to another practitioner, I try to use a lot of intuition in that. And so it feels to me kind of like this intuitive hurdle, right? Where we're kind of saying, do we trust this person? Do we want them it's a family, right? In our
you have a tight office with wonderful people. So I get that.
Yeah. So we, intuitively try to find and attract people organically that we feel like are going to fit with our philosophy. And, they're going to treat patients ethically and they're going to do a good job. They're going to continue to learn. They're going to continue to expand their knowledge. So that's been really neat because we're getting to the last stages of that. So it's been fun and neat to realize some of that. And then spiritually, I am pretty jacked right now because this weekend I'm taking my daughter. So this is the next one up. She's 9, and we're going on an annual. We call it a faith foot slog. Oh. So with each of my children, I do a one-on trip. We have 5, so you got to make time, right?
Yeah.
With each one. So I try to take them at least once a year, one-on-one on a overnight camping challenge type trip, and they have to set some kind of a goal. It's usually based on a question or a problem or an insecurity or something they're really struggling with. So they then have to research and think about that and, maybe spend a little time meditating about that as they prepare for that week.
I love that.
And then we go and I put them through some challenges. Those could be physical or intellectual or emotional challenges. Sometimes it's just hiking really hard. Sometimes it's fasting. Sometimes it's social stuff that I'll put them. So I kind of just try to think what each child might need. And then the goal really is to just give them some time away from society and peers and pressure and busy stuff and technology and everything, and give them a chance to be quiet and meditate and introspection and all those things that I think we're not getting enough of. And so then they get to hopefully try to pray and meditate and receive answers to whatever their question is. They're supposed to come with one solid question that they're really struggling with. So I'm really excited about that. I love doing these, and we're going to leave for that tomorrow. So
that is amazing.
Yeah, spiritually.
Where are you headed?
We are headed up. We're going to do a little hike outside of Cascade, and up West Mountain to a lake up there.
That's so cool. Way to go, Dad.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. We get so busy in the summer that we don't get to do those. And so now when fall hits, now I'm trying to cram all in before it's freezing cold.
Get over there. All right, go. Who's next?
So anyway, that's
awesome.
What I'm doing. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have a physical practice?
Yeah, I mean, that varies. I think, like all of us, you know, I struggle sometimes to find time for stuff as much as I'd like. And it was a real challenge for me during the summer when it was so hot and especially when the smoke was out. And so that varies. We've tried to, I'd say just something recently that I'm trying to do is we've brought like exercise equipment or things more into the house, especially this summer. And so we've tried to do different things, like we have a pull-up bar thing in our room, like a little station. And so we were just trying to accommodate what's happening with the outside world.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Love it.
Tina.
All right. Well, I don't know how I followed that.
I know.
But physically, really good. I think we were lamenting together this morning. We had some challenging workouts this week at the gym. So I have a little bit of soreness going on. It's also really silly, but I can tell the seasons are changing because my skin dries out really, really badly. And so I'm starting to get some cracking going on there. So outside of that,
it's that vata.
It really is. But outside of that, I think the other 4 levels are all really being addressed at the moment with the 108 practices. So a 108-day challenge that we're going on. We've got a number of tasks that we do every day. And it's stuff that is all really good for me. And at different points in my life, different things have served me differently. But to do each of them each day has really kind of pushed me in a bunch of different ways that have been very fulfilling, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so I feel like just the combination of the breathwork practice and the meditation and the gratitude journaling have all been really good things for me to add in. And so we're about a third of the way through that. So
Can you believe we've already done 30 days?
31%.
For 108 days.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Can I ask why 108? That's a specific number.
I love that. Thank you for asking.
Good segue.
And for those of you that are listening, I'm going to do a totally shameless plug here for the Woman Warrior Academy online circle. And it's a $25 a month membership. And you can participate in the Ayurveda 108, which is 108 days of 8 simple daily practices. And 108 is chosen, Dr. Noah, because there are 108 beads on a mala. And there's actually also 108 beads on a rosary. And there's significance in the Vedic world around the number 108. It has a very deep spiritual vibration. And there's a ton of different explanations that go along with why 108. But it really comes back down to the fact that the mala bead chain that people use for japa or meditative chant or prayer, whatever, is considered a whole circle. And so we do 108 days so that at the end of the 108 days, we have this complete cycle of full 5-dimensional transformation.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's about 3.5 months.
Yeah.
And these gals who are doing it right now are just kicking total butt. So if any of you are at home and you want to join, like we have people who are from all over the country who are doing these practices with us, and there's a daily video that you can be inspired by, and there's a warrior chat in there. People are sharing different experiences and they're sharing different meditations. You've really gotten, Tina, very deep into looking at other meditations like on Insight Timer and sharing those and all of that. So it's been really cool. Yeah. Yep.
How about you, Satyavani?
Oh, so great.
Yeah. Living
my best life. Physically, since we last kind of checked in, because our last podcast we did live at the Beauty Boost Boise. So we were really focused on the panel that we had. But since our last check-in, I did a second Spartan, 2 Spartan Decas, ran a half marathon, and tomorrow we're doing a 5K for against domestic violence. So yeah, I'm rolling. The Spartan in Temecula, which was at the end of August, was the super. It was the middle distance. 10K, they say 10K and 25 obstacles. It was really 28 obstacles. And it was beastly. But I got to tell you, I kind of like that distance. I like that 10K distance. There's something there, which is really interesting because as a college athlete, I was a sprinter. And like the middle distance, I was like, I don't like middle distance. But now I'm kind of moving into that. And then both you and I, we did the Deca Strong, which was the 10 zones for time. And for the record, Prajna smoked me on that. Like,
No, I didn't.
yes, it is. It's those legs on the box jumps. Okay. And actually, you didn't die. You didn't go down the black hole that I went down on the assault bike.
No,
I was
no,
like,
that's
oh
right.
my God, what's happening? But the next day when I had to, when you didn't do it, because I have to teach. Excuses. But I did the Deca Mile. I like the Deca Mile. Again, it's kind of a middle distance. So you do the 10 zones, but in between you're running a 1/10 of a mile. And then ran first half marathon, like didn't train for it, was just like, all right, I'm going to give this a try, and jumped in and did the thing, and had one of our great friends from Fit Body Boot Camp, Tina Adams. Thank you, Tina, for doing the half marathon with me side by side, because Holly Kerrigan, who is one of our very good colleagues and friends, she trained for that, and she PR'd. So, but I was able to do a half marathon with 0 training in under 3 hours. So I'll take it.
Yep.
And now prepping for the November Spartan in Phoenix for the Beast, which will be the half marathon distance and 30 obstacles. So started training with Grayson as at Epoch. Well, he actually, I guess his name is Grayson Kilgore, and he runs Kilgore personal training. Grayson, I love you. Thank you. And so he's giving me, tips and all of that stuff. And you'll be training with us too. So you'll get all the things. Let's see. Energetically, like, things are great. Feel like I'm super in the zone. Pulled an excellent tarot card today, oracle card. Actually, it was a tarot card. It was the Death and Rebirth card.
Nice.
So it's like things are moving in this great direction. I feel so good about what we're doing with the podcast and how the academy is coming along, and the Costa Rica trip, and mentally, emotionally, I would say things are really good. My 2 kiddies at home are the bomb. I feel like I have 2 children. I do not have the children that you have. Dr. Noah.
Chose a challenging thing for them and then take them out in the wild.
I should. They would go. They would go. And they're 2 very different characters.
Marrakesh may never come back.
I know. Marrakesh is just like, whatever. They're 2 very different characters, but they're just like the loves of my life. And Michael, my husband, who's amazing, is just, he's like, come to me. And they just meditate with him. And
he's like,
oh yeah, Snow White.
He is.
Yeah, St. Francis.
He steps out and just the squirrels and the birds, and they all just start coming out.
We're like,
it's
Dr.
amazing.
Michael's here. And it's just like,
It's amazing.
It is. It's pretty amazing. Level of awareness right now, like my level of consciousness, I'm very, very aware of my actions and what I'm doing and how that's influencing, other people. That intuition with the energetic is really playing itself out well, I think, at Fit Body Boot Camp, because this new community is evolving and growing, which is really amazing. And spiritually, I'm with Tina on this. The 108 practices are just keeping me dialed in, which is really very nice. So
Good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Eve, we have a series of questions for you.
All right.
And so we're going to kind of rotate around, and we'll have Prajna start, and then we'll pass the second question to Ms. Tina here, and then we'll keep going. We want to hear all about you and all the things that happen at ICIM. So, Praj.
Okay. So give us a brief backstory of how ICIM came to be.
All right. Yeah, as a teenager, like in high school and stuff, I initially thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. So I thought, this is my plan, because I loved.
Well, you have 5 children.
I was going to say, I could see that.
I put a doctor on them all the time still. I did like kids, even at that age. I liked kids, and I just really was fascinated by physiology and anatomy and disease, all that stuff, right? So I remember looking through the medical books and just looking at rashes and owies and things like that, and just being kind of fascinated by that. But then in high school, like junior, senior year, my father and sister both had some thyroid complications, and I kind of saw how that was handled by specialists, and wasn't really impressed with that. It just gave radioactive iodine and like killed their thyroids. And I thought, oh geez, that's crazy. These people have been to school for umpteen years, and that was their best answer. And then I worked at a pharmacy, actually, my, I think junior, senior year in high school. And
Did you go to school locally? Like, are you local?
LeGrand, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah, so not far from this. Yeah.
Did a semester there.
Really? At EOU?
Yeah.
Nice.
You. Okay, what's that?
Eastern Oregon.
Eastern
Oh,
Oregon.
Yeah.
EOU.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Got it.
So, but I just saw that working at that pharmacy, and I was just, of course, delivering meds and stuff, not anything high up, but I guess witnessed that you had the same people coming back in for the same prescription, and it didn't seem to really be fixing anything, and a lot of people were complaining about side effects. And I was raised, thankfully, from my parents pretty holistically. They didn't run us right to the doctor for every sniffle. In fact, we didn't have health insurance growing up. And so a lot of the time, it's pretty rare we actually even went to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So I already had a little bit of that holistic tradition, I think, in my veins. And so it was something I thought about. But then I went to school, and did my undergrad in marketing and business, because I was like, well, I'm not going to do medicine. I don't know what I'm going to do, but kind of like the idea of being self-employed and doing my own thing and not working for the man. And so then I got done with that and was like, oh crap, now what? What am I going to do for grad school? And so anyway, I had a friend going to chiropractic school, looked at what they were studying, and it's like, oh, nutrition and anatomy and physiology and all the stuff that I love. Awesome. But I get, kind of partway through that, and I'm like, okay, this is great for, neuromusculoskeletal things like headaches and back pain and things like that. But I really am kind of interested in the other stuff too, the internal stuff, digestive disorders and thyroid issues and other things. And so I started just kind of researching and digging deeper there and got introduced. This is when functional medicine was pretty young, but I took my first functional medicine seminar and while I was still in chiro school and fell in love with it. I was like, okay, boom, this is a great way that I can kind of, finally combine these things together and do chiropractic and start to learn functional medicine, which is, looking for root cause of what's going on using lab tests and trying to find really what's at the root of people's issues. So I finished chiro school, went to naturopathic school, and then did a fellow in acupuncture, kind of all back to back to back. And just figured, hey, this is kind of like my residency, after chiro school, and also finished up the certified chiropractic sports physician program.
Did you work with athletes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we got a lot of our training from actually Dr. Bill Moreau, who was one of the head guys over the Olympic Committee sports program.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I was going to say that name sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and he's a chiro, he's a DC as well. So, great training there. And that just taught me, I think, really to deal with sports injuries, right? So shoulder problems and elbow problems and sprains and strains and different things, as opposed to more just focusing on the spine, and learn a lot about concussions and some first aid stuff. So it was helpful to add to the foundation I already had. But anyway, I was just starting to look, broadly at what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be able to treat people with a variety of different problems. And so then I came out and I practiced initially at the Boise Spine Center with a couple of awesome doctors there. And, but it was very chiropractic focused, and I knew that I wanted to do more. So initially started Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine. A few years into practice, I practiced for, about 3 or 4 years with those guys, and then started out then on my own. So that takes us to about 2012, 2013. So that's when I started Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine, was renting a spot over in Milwaukee, and then bought our current building about 5 or 6 years ago. So the goal has been, to integrate, bring in different people and different things, different modalities together, and just with the understanding that I want to be able to treat a variety of issues and offer people solutions that don't really exist in the traditional medical model.
Definitely not.
And also realizing I can't do it all myself. I tried to, of course, obtain these different degrees and certifications and things, but it's pretty obvious that I can't do everything, right? And so I wanted to start to build a team around me of other practitioners and people that could help me in that process. And that's, I think, where I'm at now, is still just trying to build that team of quality people that I can surround myself with and that will take care of the areas that I have deficiencies in, that can address these other needs that patients have. So I have a wonderful physical therapist in there now, hypnotherapist, nurse practitioner. I mean, we're bringing on this nutritionist. And so we are really trying to address all of the different areas of health that we talk about in our mission statement.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so great. And your functional medicine experience was exactly how I felt with Ayurveda. It was, that 5,000-year tradition of like, oh my God, these people really knew what they were talking about, and like goes like, let's get to the root of the situation. Let's look at the digestive system and how that, spills out all over the place. And so it's all about my functional medicine, colleagues are like, we can have the same language, and be able to talk about those things. So that's really cool. So excited. Tina.
So that was a really great segue, and you kind of already touched on a lot of it, but what is kind of the scope of things that you see treatments for? What do you see a lot of?
That's a tough question, a great question, but a tough question, right? Because we do really offer a ton of different services, and we have a variety of practitioners, but also even just, from my own experience, and the machines or equipment or therapies that we have available are quite broad. And as I mentioned before, that has mostly come from our experiences of just having tough cases. I mean, literally just today, I was on the phone with an oral surgeon, and we were brainstorming a tough case today. This sweet college-age girl that just has some nerve pain shooting down in her face, and we were brainstorming together, like, well, we could try this and we could try that. And so these are the types of cases that really motivate us to expand out. So I would say, and when people say like, well, what's your specialty? Or what do you do? I mean, there are certainly categories of things like pain that's probably the number one thing I see, right? But we just, I think, specialize in the tough cases that aren't having success in the traditional model. So that could be autoimmune diseases, chronic pain or difficult pain, that they've tried some of their stuff. Maybe they've even tried, getting regular chiropractic adjustments, or they've tried some acupuncture or whatever. But when we start combining these different things together and looking at it from different angles, I think we're able to offer a unique approach. And so I guess we offer those many options so that we can help these tough cases. And that to me is what's most rewarding as well. I get really just bored if I'm just seeing back pain all day. Like,
that would put me over a cliff.
A rib out, that's fine to see once in a while, but I don't need to just be seeing that every day, all day. So I enjoy the challenging ones. When someone comes to me like, I'm kind of a train wreck and I've seen 15 doctors, and that kind of excites me a little bit. It might seem sick and twisted, but I can't help all those people. Of course, we don't have 100% success, but at least excites me that we can try, and I can look them in the eyes and say, hey, we're going to try our best. And we have a lot of different tools in our toolkit to be able to help you. So just to give you an idea, we have the chiropractic and the acupuncture and kind of the functional medicine lens of looking at things from the inside out. And then we'd have, IV therapies and regenerative injections like PRP and ozone and stem cells. And we use some peptides, and we use obviously nutritional supplements, and we use, mind body stuff and hypnotherapy, and we'll get into, some more of that stuff as we go through the different 5 levels, but we just have a broad range of tools. And so I think that allows us to treat a lot of different things. And so we often get phone calls like, hey, can you help with this? And it'll be these really crazy conditions that honestly, I've never even really, maybe I heard of it once in school or something, but haven't heard it since, and haven't seen any cases. But
absolutely,
again, we can usually kind of look at someone and say, I think we can probably help, because we're going to work from the inside out, and we're going to just try to address things of wherever you have deficiencies or problems, or wherever we're seeing, things going awry in your blood work or in your labs, or some special labs, a stool test or hair tests or urine tests or whatever. We're going to find some problems. And so if we address those problems, these energetic problems or nutritional problems or whatever, we're going to be able to help most things to a certain degree. And of course, we always have to be realistic and not promise the moon and tell people that we can get them back to perfect, but at least I think see some improvements. And so that's exciting for us.
What I love about this, Dr. Noah, is the first thing you talked about how you're talking with an oral surgeon. I think there's also this misnomer in the holistic and alternative medicine field, and even in Western allopathic medicine, that the doctor in the white coat has the solution. And what I appreciate about you sharing is I love the fact that you're collaborating with peers and colleagues.
Yeah.
Because even in Ayurveda school and in my own practice, it's like you have to call upon other people. And it's just like, I think it's this. What do you think about this? What is your perspective? And that creates a human experience for patients to see that, like, we've established this model in allopathic medicine that it's like, I have a problem, I go to the allopathic doctor, and then they give me a solution, and then I do that thing and it's going to get cured, and that they're all knowing.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're actually behind the scenes trying to troubleshoot. You're behind the scenes trying to troubleshoot and like, okay, well, what if we tried this? And what if we tried that, et cetera? And that's what makes it not only real, but it also makes it very solution-based for that particular patient, and expands the knowledge base of all the practitioners that are involved.
Exactly.
You know, I think part of the reason why we have, and we'll get into this a little bit more, I think part of the reason why we have the problems that we have in modern allopathic medicine is because we're also putting those doctors in positions that they're not necessarily equipped for. You know,
they see a patient for like 6 to 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And then, you know, their tools are very limited as to what they're able to do, because it's also siloed too.
Bingo.
So like, well, I have this drug that I could give you, or this drug that I could give you, when that's the only tools they're really given.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the beautiful thing about integrating different and collaborating like that too is the patients can feel that and sense it. You know,
Yes.
they know. And they even just the fact that you're willing to try. I mean, again, we see some pretty tough cases, and we also can't help all of them. But
Of course.
if we can give them a little hope too, like, I'm going to try, I'm going to talk to some colleagues, I'm going to do some research, I'm going to do whatever. I mean, that's empowering for people. And some people, even if they just get a little bit of hope, you know, you might not be able to cure everything they have.
Huge.
But if you can give them some hope that you're going to try, I think they just appreciate that we're willing to talk amongst ourselves as practitioners and say, hey, we're going to look for some answers, and then we got to try to talk the patient into being a guinea pig sometimes too, right? And say, hey, we think this will probably work. Are you willing to try it? And they appreciate it. And like you said, I love what you said too about we get to learn from it too. I mean, talking to an oral surgeon who he spends his whole life right here.
Right in the mouth.
Yeah. So he has wonderful insight, and he can, you know, educate me about the anatomy and remind me of some things. And if we go upstream from that nerve, like, what's next? What's the ganglion there? You know, and he just knows all that like the back of his hand, you know? And so, yeah. It's like everybody wins, you know?
Exactly. Everybody wins, which is wonderful. Which kind of leads into, you've sort of, like, Tina sort of answered the question, but, you know, how have patient needs changed over time since you know, like when you went into chiropractic medicine and then you were working for the spinal group, you know, it was very, you know, spine oriented, et cetera. And now that you've expanded into this, you know, holistic perspective, as well as the times have changed, you know, how has the patient needs changed since you have gone into practice?
Yeah, that I do think that overall the world is changing, right? I mean, I'm going to sound really old saying that, right?
I'm right there with you.
Like, are things just getting crazier and crazier? I mean, it was easy for everyone to say that around COVID time, but even now, I mean, truthfully, I mean, the number of chemicals and crap that we're putting in food and on food, you know, the we're getting, you know, there are new medications and new just toxins coming out.
Yep. Can I interject for 1 second? I gotta be a little careful
what I say, probably, but
yeah, I just want to interject one thing. I just read an article in the New York Times that my husband passed to me that talked about how, remember the whole tobacco issue? How those companies, after they got busted for the whole tobacco thing, just started pumping it right into our food, and that's why all the thing, you know, and like I intuitively knew that, but then when you read it, you're just like, you bastards, like. Holy cow. I didn't mean to interrupt. But
no.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's just it, right? I mean, it's everywhere. We can't escape it, you know, and sometimes it's like this fire, right? It's just these toxins that, you know, you can't avoid. And people are coming in for this whole summer. It felt like I can't tell if I'm sick or it's just this fire, this smoke. But so I think in general, our world is getting more toxic. You know, it's only a lot of that stuff just accumulates. It's really hard to just get rid of some of these pesticides and these heavy metals and things. These don't just, you know, vanish. They stick around, you know, and we're passing these down to generations. And so I do think the complexity has increased over time in patients. And also just my practice, you know, I had just this week, a patient of mine said, how old are you? And he said, how long have you been in practice? And I said, 15 years, I'm coming up on something. He goes, okay, good. Because you're not a rookie anymore. You've learned some things, you have some wisdom, but you're not lazy and about retired. So you're kind of sweet spot in the middle. But, as I do gain experience and reputation with maybe some of these other providers in the area or whatnot, I think that also raises the complexity, right? People go, well, try this place out. Maybe they can help with this because we're not having much of this. So I've been fortunate to be able to get referrals from a variety of different types of practitioners and word of mouth and things. And so I think that has maybe also raised the complexity bar a little bit for me. So I definitely think things are getting tougher. I think the complexity of the cases that we're seeing of disease is there are just more layers to it, And then I learn more too, you learn more about how involved things are. You first think like, oh, mold, that's not that big of a deal, clean it up. And then you learn about really the long-term effects and how hard it is to get rid of. So the more I learn and the more educated I become, the more I realize, wow, some of these things are really a lot tougher than what I thought or what I initially treated them as. And I oftentimes wish I could go back and treat some of my patients I treated 10 years ago, oh, I really think I can help that person now. But so I guess hopefully that answers the question, but I just think they're tougher there. And then we of course have, I think, a really big wave of this mental, emotional, psychological stuff that's going on.
Right into the next question.
And there you go. Get it, girl.
Let's do it. So beyond the physical, so you said, you didn't want to crack backs all day and do all of that. So on the energetic and the mental, and you're done. And you're done. Like, where does that kind of all come in? Like the energetic, the mental, the emotional, the intuitive, the spiritual. Are we in a spiritual crisis? Do we have, can people not listen to their intuition because their gut is so messed up?
Mm-hmm. And they're brain fogged out with every medication that's been given to them and the food that's poisoning them and all of that.
So it sounds like
I didn't mean to sound doom and gloom there.
It sounds like your office really does offer what you are offering is, either it be you or your colleagues, you are able to actually help people on all of those levels. So.
Yeah, I try to. And are we in a spiritual crisis, you asked? And I want to say yes and no. I mean, I think, yes, you see a lot. There's, I think, an attack on spirituality, an attack on religion. There are some of those things that are a little doom and gloom, right? But I also think there's an awakening happening as well, right? And I just try to stay optimistic, but I think it sometimes takes tough things, like COVID or like health difficulties in your own life or even, a spiritual crisis or something to drive some of this. So I'm hopeful that people will wake up and realize there's some value in that. We always try that. But I tried to think a little bit about these different levels, and what we do in our practice, which was a really good exercise for me, right? To think about, are we addressing this? We claim to do that in the mission statement, but are we really doing that? And how I'm just kind of taking an inventory. So with the energetic side, we definitely tried to address that. We have a lot of energetic modalities. Ozone literally runs through energy pathways, drives the mitochondria, that extra atom of oxygen. That's how it works. Ozone is just 3 atoms of oxygen, and one of those, so it's unstable that way. So one of those breaks off and feeds those energetic pathways. But we also have, other things like acupuncture and microcurrent and PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy.
Which Praj you have experience with, don't you?
Yeah. But am I that tough case that you wanted to bring this machine out to try and make? It sounds pretty awful. But it was very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I will say that when I got the prolozone therapy for my knee, he's so kind. He's like, yeah, we'll just, do a little bit. And like the needle comes out, and it's like, 15 feet long. Here you go. And it's like, I'm like screaming every expletive possible. And he's just so patient, but like literally one treatment done. It was a one and done. My knee was fine.
Awesome.
Like I was like, yeah, this works. And I actually referred Praj, and I referred several other people who've come to your office for that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
And really with this, bringing you in today, and, we can't go in depth with all these things, but, the desire is to have you come back and talk about some of these specific modalities and all of the things that go into those. So
yeah, we love that.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right.
So we do want to make sure that people are still coming to see you, but ideally they wouldn't necessarily need to So are there 3 things that people can do to avoid most of the common ailments that you see?
Well, absolutely right. And I think I'll start with, can I put all of the like lifestyle stuff into one
Yes.
category? Because I think it's a little bit obvious. I think most people by now, if they're watching, especially if they're watching this podcast, I think they have an idea that health starts with, managing your stress and getting good sleep and eating right and exercising, movement, spirituality. I mean, the 5 levels as you're referring to. So I would lump that all into lifestyle practices.
I
right?
love that.
And we know that most chronic conditions, and in fact, a majority of the healthcare expenditure that we have in this nation is because people aren't doing those basic lifestyle things. And so that's
It's like,
first and foremost.
Where did that stop? 'Cause like growing up as a kid, like I did those things,
Mhm.
I mean, maybe not, in the way that we talk about, like with, Vedic science and all of that, but like we got regular exercise and ate family meals
I
and
think you go back to the tobacco goes into the food
Right.
system.
Right, I
and
know.
They start pumping out chemicals into your food, and that makes a huge difference,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
It's just, they're just getting hammered from every angle, right? I mean, it's the food, it's, I think, technology, right? Not just the social media, but just the screen time
Yep.
and the video game console stuff. And these things aren't all bad, but a lot of, and some parents just don't have the time or the mental capacity. And so you have single parents and all kinds of challenges there, right? That we need to be sensitive to. But the reality is there are just so many other things now to fill your time with.
Yes.
I mean, when I was a kid, it was like, yeah, we had a Super Nintendo, but most of the time my mom was like, get your butt outside and
Same.
play, In fact, sometimes she was like, get up, don't read that book, get outside and play, or go, it's nice outside, go out, or even if it's not nice, go outside. So there's been, I think, a shift.
Get
in
out in
that
the
sense.
snow, no shoes.
Yeah. So second thing is in terms of just helping people stay healthy or away from for lack of injury maybe, would be to consider, and this might be a little bit, I'm trying to think outside the box a little bit for you guys too, and give people some ideas, but I encourage a lot of my patients to rethink their insurance plans and to think about
love
like
that.
HSAs, FSAs, and Christian co-ops. Because I think so many people are stuck in, I hear the excuse or the rationale sometimes of like, well, my insurance doesn't cover it.
Yep.
It's like, well, what does your insurance cover? And if you follow everything that insurance is covering, where's that going to lead you?
And how's that working for you?
What path is that going to lead you down? Exactly. Like, look at your parents and grandparents if they're using that model, like where that's taking them, because they're probably on 7 medications and they're getting every surgery that's recommended to them. So I encourage people to utilize these other things because they can get some of this stuff paid for. We don't accept regular health, and we're not in network with any of the health insurance programs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, none of the, pretty much, 80, 90% of what we do is not covered by those things, right?
Yep.
And so an easy way for people to understand that is they don't cover your gym membership and your supplements, your organic food and some of these things. So I encourage people to think about what you're doing for your health care and for your health insurance, because I think so many people still have that in their
Yes, they do.
mindset of like, if it's covered, I'll do it. If it's not, I'm not going to do it. So well, then maybe switch how you're getting covered then and think about that. So I find that if people can start to use these dollars in ways that are meaningful for them and that they think is empowering for them, they're going to make better decisions. And I'm kind of, I'm of that mindset, of just giving society in general more autonomy and more power and trusting them with knowledge, not censoring things and not trying to hide things and not trying to make decisions for people. Let people do their own research, make their own decisions, and speak with their wallets, right?
I want to say that is thank you. That coming from a physician in this highly insured model that we have here and making that a priority with helping people get over ailments, like brilliant. Thank you for that.
I got one more.
There's supposed to be 3. Tina asked you for 3.
Lower minds.
My-
One more time.
So last one is to consider getting regular functional medicine laboratory workups done.
Okay.
And so let me elaborate on that just a little bit if I can. So
Please.
in general, when people go to the doctor, if they go at all, and they don't usually go until there's a problem, right? I think very few people actually go regularly, especially men. They don't go regularly and just get checkups like, oh, well, it's been once a year, I'm going to go back to the doctor, right? So I find a lot of people just aren't going at all. But So I encourage people to go and have checkups, but also, and the reason why I say a functional medicine laboratory workup is because that's going to be more in depth, right?
I was just going to say
so typically when you go to a traditional doctor, you're going to get maybe a lipid panel and potentially a chemistry, which is going to have a fasting glucose and going to check your kidneys and liver and some basic stuff on there, but it's not really going to dive deep. We can extract a little bit of information from that, but when I do a annual wellness panel on someone, I'm casting the net out much wider. So I'm going to catch a lot more things, and I'm using optimal ranges for things. And so I'm not waiting for a disease to happen. I'm looking to see if they're even just suboptimal so that we're catching things earlier. Like, are we starting to see some signs of, insulin resistance, for example? So when you traditionally go to a doctor, you're not going to really even have a discussion about diabetes or prediabetes unless that fasting glucose is above 100 or even maybe above 125.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we're checking fasting insulin, we're checking their triglycerides, we're checking their A1C. Sometimes we'll do additional tests, other tests on top of that, but we're looking at multiple markers and we're trying to catch things even earlier.
And do you do that in your office?
Yeah. And we offer very reasonable, I think people are also surprised. We can get a really good panel with a lot of information, thyroid and testosterone and inflammatory markers and some immune markers and some really useful, I think, annual information for really just $200 or $300 you can get, and that's at least once a year. And then
from there, in the bucket.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? And then you look at what runs in their family genetically, like, oh, okay, your dad died of a heart attack. We should maybe zoom in there a little bit, or what was off on your labs that you got done last year. And so I kind of use those to hone in, or in other words, what rabbit holes to go down. But I think we could catch a lot of stuff if I could encourage people to just do that preventative workup once every 6 to 12 months. I think that would really help a lot of people too.
If you think about that, like $200 to $300, it's like $25 to $30 a month.
Yeah.
People spend more on Starbucks coffee.
Oh yeah, in a week.
In a week. Exactly. Like, I'm going to make my annual appointment.
There you go.
Coming in. All right. So this is one of our final questions for you, which is, how do you feel you are living a life of purpose with your practice? And and quite honestly, like, your energy and your excitement and everything throughout this whole conversation really demonstrates it for me personally. And I think our friends here, but for those of us that are listening that might be like, hey, you know what? I want to go see Dr. Noah. I want to connect with him, because our whole podcast theme this year has been living a life of purpose. And we at on the podcast and in the Woman Warrior Academy are encouraging women to really start to cultivate that purpose. Tina has been doing that since February of last year with us in our Dharma Circle group, et cetera. And so I'd like to hear, from you, how do you feel like you're living a life of purpose with your practice and your work in the world?
Or maybe even like, when do you feel it?
Yeah.
At what times do you feel like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it does come in seasons, right? I wish I could just sit here and say that it's all the time and I'm 100%, like pedal to the metal and I'm always living. Of course I'm not, right? So there are certainly waves. And I think a lot of that happens from, when I go to a conference or get excited about something, right? Or maybe it's a tough case, or maybe it's a successful case that gets me excited, like, okay, what I'm doing is working. But I just really, I feel very fortunate to have a career and, that I find rewarding, that I get to help people. I know it sounds cliche, like, oh, I just get to help people. But really, I feel fortunate to be in a profession where my goal is to really help enrich people's life and improve life. But at the same time, I think anyone, you don't have to be a doctor to have that, right? I think of our septic tank that we had overflow not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a pretty crummy situation for me and my wife, right? You got to go. So we're on a well in a septic, and started having this problem. Then nobody wants that kind of a problem, right? When the septic guy comes out and here, like, that's a crappy job, pun intended.
All right.
That's like, that's not a fun job.
No, it's not.
But I just thought this guy did a great job. He was respectful and gave us options, and we had a few people come out, but this one guy, he found us, we thought we were gonna have to get a whole new septic system,
which is, I know what that's like.
Very expensive.
I've lived
and very
on,
involved. Yeah.
Yes.
But we had 3 people come out, 3 companies. One came out and gave us a fantastic idea, and he executed it, and he was clean and professional. And so to me, it's like, here is a guy who has again, a kind of dirty, nasty job to some regard, but he lived his life with purpose. He made our lives better, a lot better, saved us a lot of money, saved us a lot of grief, really helped us in kind of a crisis situation. And I just think for anyone out there, like whatever job you're doing, do it well. What's that saying? If it's worth doing well, right? Or doing right. And so something I try to instill in my children is, it doesn't matter. Like, you might not feel like what your job has purpose. Maybe you feel like you're stuck in a cubicle somewhere and your job has no meaning. But I really feel like anyone in their job can help lift up people around them and enrich their lives and have purpose with what they're doing. As a teacher, I'm sure have that all the time, right? I mean, it just takes changing one child's life and they're never going to forget you. And so ultimately that's really how I try to live is, I want to be able to affect people in a positive manner. I just feel fortunate that I can do that, again, in a profession that's rewarding that way. But I try to live that inside and outside my clinic. And there are certainly times where I just get really excited about a new therapy or a new thing that is the latest and greatest. And that revs me right up. But there are other times where it's just tough. You hit those winter blues, or you get,
It'd be a grind.
That upset patient or the patient who didn't get the results that either of you wanted. And so you definitely have those lulls as well.
Yeah. And that's what we call life, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. So great. Wow. So we're actually going to tie this a little bit into what you've been speaking about, Dr. Noah. We are ready for Prajna's segment on Try This, Not That. Mm-hmm. And so, Praj, what do we have today?
Well, actually, knowing that Dr. E was coming in today, I thought, okay, we want to make it something that works with what you're going to be talking about. So I was like, okay, well, what better than to think about alternative medicine, functional medicine, chiropractic versus the allopathic model. And so my plea to all of you out there is thinking about not just going to the doc in the box and putting a Band-Aid over whatever is happening, but actually healing the wound underneath it by trying different modalities, alternative, preventative, holistic options. However, on top of that, I would also say that what you mentioned about the alternative to health insurance. And I think that is so important. You guys,
try this, not that.
We have to think of different ways if we're going to change the system, it starts with us. Mm-hmm. I mean, the government's not going to change that system.
No.
The doctors aren't going to change that system. They're the insurance companies aren't going to want that system to change. But if we want it to change, we are the ones who are able to do it. And so, look at HSAs, I know there's some other companies out there. I just looked into Ways to Well, which is a whole new system where they're trying to do, I think, very similar to what you do. Finding all of these different ways that they can look at health, just other avenues than looking at health insurance and trying to figure out what other options are out there. What other ways can we put our money into something that really does us some good instead of just
could not agree more.
Puts us on umpteen prescriptions. And so
I love it. So you heard it, folks. This is the thing. The two things that are coming out of Try This, Not That is, first of all, try integrative holistic medicine. And if you are local Boise, Idaho, please do go to the Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine and see Dr. Noah, how do we get a hold of you? Where can people get in touch with you?
Easiest is probably Google Dr. Noah Boise or Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine. It's www.theicim.com, THEICIM.com.
Excellent.
We're on Facebook and Instagram and things, but we don't honestly post as much as we should, but yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So do that. Try some of that. Try some Ayurveda. Join the Dharma Circle. Get all of the cool information. And also try different options for your health insurance. I think we get into a program of this is what my family did, or this is what my job provides, or something along those lines. And actually really doing some self-examination about what it is that you personally need. Mm-hmm. And because there are things that insurance provides that you don't need. I mean, my husband and we have gone without health insurance for probably a decade and a half because none of it is relevant for us. Outside of an emergency situation. And so actually this year we're going to do something alternative to get emergency medicine, just in case if I walk out on Orchard and get hit by a bus, it would be nice to be able to be cared for. But for the most part, we, put money aside so that we can use services like you provide. So, yeah. So try those things, friend. That's our try this, not that. So before we say our goodbyes and conclude and everything, we have our special guest with us, Tina Fuller, who is going to be a regular guest on our show. And I'm hoping, Dr. Noah, that you will be as well. That we are going to introduce a new segment called Truth Bombs and Becoming Contagious. And as my conversation before this podcast was with Dr. Noah, not being contagious in the COVID way, but rather in a really positive way. So a couple of years ago on my Instagram, I started gathering these quotes and different memes and things that were really just these truth bombs that just hit me like right in the gut. And so for those of you that are interested in following me on Instagram, I have like one of those little circles that's underneath your profile that's called Truth Bombs. And so I've just gathered these things from all over, various different quotes and memes that people have said that I'm like, wow, I really get that. And it's been really interesting to review those over the past, couple of years, because to see what I felt was like really hit me 2 years ago versus now and how that constantly evolves. So Ms. Tina and I were having this discussion and she's like, I really want to do a segment on your podcast called Being Contagious. And so, Tina, I'm going to turn this over to you so you can tell all of our listeners where that came from, what being contagious means to you, and how we're going to incorporate that here on the Woman Warrior podcast.
Absolutely. Actually, I have to thank you. You queued me up perfectly with your response to the life of purpose question. And where the notion came from, I was fortunate enough to get to participate in a program that the state offers to employees. Also, anyone can participate, but it's through the Division of Human Resources through the state. And it's a 2-year program called the Certified Public Manager. And it is a phenomenal program. You spend a lot of time really exploring leadership concepts and things like that. And I was asked to speak at our graduation ceremony and trying to come up with something insightful to share in front of all of these people, including elected officials, department heads, the governor, everything else, is kind of tough. And it was not too long after COVID. And I started thinking, I'm not sure where the idea came from, but I'm like, why does contagious get such a bad rap, right? Because it's not just things that cause disease or things that are bad that are contagious. There's a lot of things out there that are actually contagious that are good. Laughter, smiling, joy, the energy in this room. I'm sorry, if you're at home, you can't feel it. But when you hear Dr. Noah talking, you can feel his joy and his passion. And it's something that's really simple. And it's a wonderful experiment. One of my favorites is just smiling. You might not really be in the mood to smile, but if you see someone or you see a kiddo that's chasing something in the store and you smile and you catch somebody else's eye, they're instant. Like the instinct is just to smile back. You feel better. They feel better. You connected with another human being.
Yes.
And that's going to leave something that resonates with them. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to physically touch them, but you can emotionally touch them. You can
energetically.
Exactly. It's almost like if you throw a stone in the water, right? It creates one point of impact, but then things ripple out from that. And so you have a positive interaction with somebody, and then they take that feeling with them. And then the next 3 people that they interact with, they get that same positive, and all of a sudden it becomes really exponential. And so what I wanted to mention with thought, or the conversation I wanted to have, I was thinking about what we're doing and the work that we're exploring with the life purpose and with the Dharma Circle and all of those things. And it's like, why don't we share this out there with folks?
Agreed.
Little things that they can try or incorporate and just approach life from that frame of mind. Like, you can be contagious. You can have an impact. You can be a spreader of positive, of joy, of good, because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there right now. And any brightness that we can have and share with the world is priceless.
And we need this right now more than ever. And so that's why we're going to have our Truth Bombs and Being Contagious segment added in future podcasts. And so, but Tina, today, if you were to give our listeners one thing that they can do to be contagious, what would it be?
Smile.
I love it.
Just find somebody that doesn't have a smile. Share one of yours. See what happens.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's an experiment.
It's a very cool experiment. Yeah.
Excellent. So, all right. Well, my friends, I think that's kind of a wrap for us. I want to thank our guests today.
Yes.
Thank you, Tina, for coming along and being contagious. And our viewers will see more of you on a regular basis. We're excited about that, to add you to our regular podcast. And Dr. Noah, what a pleasure and a privilege to have you here.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. And my kids found out I was going to be on a podcast and they were like, whoa, you're as far as they're concerned, this is like the Joe Rogan podcast I'm at today.
Please tell them that.
Yeah.
Please, because
They might
Joe,
be disappointed too. Where's Joe?
we were the stand-ins for Joe
There you go.
today.
Yeah.
So Joe, we're coming for you. But let them believe that. Thank you. And thank you so much for both of you for coming today. We had so much great information to share. Folks, again, if you are local Boise or, the Ada County or even the state of Idaho, and you've got something that you really want to have addressed, please do go to the Idaho Center for Integrative Medicine and see Dr. Noah and his team. You will not be disappointed at all. It's just, as soon as you walk in, it's just a wonderful, pleasant environment. All of the admins, all of the practitioners, and Dr. Noah himself is a legend. And so,
Thank you so much.
we are so happy that you're here, and look forward to having you come back and continue to give us some updates so that we can continue to have this kind of conversation and spread this information, and also tie it into the Vedas and the Ayurvedic principles and all of that. That'll be a lot of fun in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right, friends. Well, thank you so much. Again, if you want to come on the Women Warrior Empowerment Retreat in Costa Rica, please do visit our website, thewomanwarrioracademy.com, and come and check out the Empowerment Retreat. You will not be disappointed. And in the meantime, join our membership circle online, just $25 a month. Again, you can find that on thewomanwarrioracademy.com. And we look forward to seeing all of you very soon once again. And Jai Bhagwan, may your soul be victorious.
Is life hard? Yeah, it's really fucking hard. And you can also have the life it is that you want. You just got to work for it.